A wild Mustang dragged the rancher to a hidden cabin, where a duke kept a forbidden girl. The wind tore through Bitterroot Basin like a banshee on fire, screaming down the canyons and stirring up dust like the ghosts of men long buried. Beau McCrae had been chasing the Mustang since dawn. His jaw clenched with grit, boots slick with mud, reins coiled in one hand, the other clutching his Winchester like it was part of his own bones. The beast was blacker than prairie night, muscles rippling like thunder beneath its hide, and eyes that glinted like they'd stared into hell and liked what they saw. Beau had seen many things in his 35 years: war, betrayal, fire, famine, but never a creature like this. The locals called it cursed, the devil's pony. But to Beau, it was something else. Something that called to the same broken place inside him he didn't let no one near. He didn't chase it to tame it. He chased it because it was the only thing in this land that moved like it knew where it was going. It had lured him up through narrow gullies and frostbitten ledges, past twisted pines and into snowfields where no rancher had business riding. Then it happened. A hoof caught a rock, Beau's mount spooked, and in one cruel twist of fate, he was thrown. His foot caught in the stirrup, and the world blurred into a kaleidoscope of pine, stone, ice, and pain. He didn't remember much of the dragging, only flashes. Snow turning pink, a branch raking across his cheek like a knife, the sound of the Mustang's hooves pounding ahead without care. He must have passed out, but not before one final glimpse, the silhouette of a cabin rising out of the woods like some forgotten relic of another time, smoke curling soft and strange into the gray sky. When he came to, his breath was ragged, jaw crusted with blood, ribs screaming. Snow had drifted over his legs. The Mustang was gone. Only its hoof prints led to the edge of the pines. Beau groaned, rolled over, and the world spun. There it stood. A cabin. Not some shack knocked together by trappers. This one had elegance to it. Timber cut smooth, shutters carved with vines and roses, a stone chimney curling with smoke like a chimney from an English manor. Nothing about it belonged here in the wilderness, which is exactly why it made the hairs on his neck rise. He staggered forward, boots crunching. A candle flickered in the window. Inside, a shadow moved. He raised his voice, though it cracked from thirst and cold. "Anyone home?" No answer. He lifted his hand, hesitated, then knocked once. Twice. The door creaked open. Warmth spilled out, and with it, the scent of firewood, stew, and something else, perfume. Sweet. Expensive. His stomach growled, but his instinct screamed louder. He stepped inside. The cabin was dimly lit, but rich. Rugs from the Orient. Books with gold-lettered spines. A harp in the corner, untouched but polished. A rifle above the mantel, French-make, not American. Beau's eyes swept the room, and then locked. She stood at the back, half hidden behind a curtain. Young. No more than 20. Hair like golden hay spun through with sunlight, eyes wide and frightened, lips parted as if her breath had just caught on a thorn in the wind. He took a step forward. "Miss, I." She shook her head. Then she said, in a voice so soft it nearly didn't reach him, "He said no one would ever find me." The words fell heavy, like they didn't belong to a stranger's day. They belonged to nightmares. Beau opened his mouth, but a sound behind him froze the blood in his spine. Boots. Not workman's boots. Not mud-crusted ranchers. These were polished, clicking across wood like they'd never known dirt. Beau turned slow. The man who stepped from the shadows wasn't from these parts. Not from this country. Maybe not from this world. He was tall, sharp-featured, with silver-shot hair tied at the nape, dressed in a midnight blue riding coat with silver buttons, lace cuffs peeking from beneath his sleeves. And in his gloved hand, a dueling pistol, ivory-handled, engraved. "You weren't meant to see her," he said, voice smooth as warm wine, cold as a coffin lid. Beau didn't move. The pistol was steady. Dead steady. "Now," the stranger went on, "you'll have to decide if you're the kind of man who forgets what he sees, or dies remembering it." Beau's hands twitched, slow, toward his sides. He wasn't carrying his Winchester, lost it in the snow, but his belt knife was still there. "Not fast enough." "She's just a girl," Beau said carefully. "Don't look like a prisoner. Don't look like she's here by force." The stranger smiled. "She's here by truth. And the truth's heavier than force." Behind him, the girl whispered something Beau couldn't catch. The Duke's eyes didn't flicker. "I'm what remains when old worlds crumble. And she," he tilted his head toward her, "is a secret the new world ain't ready to bleed for." Bo felt the throb of pain in his shoulder, the sting of frozen blood in his cheek, the fury growing in his chest like fire catching dry sage. "She got a name?" he asked. "She gave it up," the man replied. "I didn't ask you." The Duke's eyes narrowed. Bo turned slightly, catching her gaze. "You got a name, girl?" A pause. Then, soft as snowfall, she said, "Eliza." The pistol rose half an inch. "You've spoken it now," the Duke said. "That changes things." "I reckon it does," Bo muttered. The Duke stepped forward, gun never wavering. "Do you believe in fate, Mr. McCrae?" Bo blinked. "I never told you my name." "You think this is chance?" The Duke's voice coiled like smoke. "You think that beast, my Mustang, dragged you here by mistake? No, he led you. Because sometimes, fate isn't about choice. It's about who arrives at the moment when all paths cross." Bo's jaw tightened. His mind raced. The Mustang. The storm. The cabin. Eliza. He wasn't led by reins or hunger, Bo said slowly. That Mustang had a purpose. The Duke's smile faded. Somewhere in the woods beyond, a howl cut through the trees. Not a wolf. Not a man. Something in between. Eliza's eyes darted to the door. "He's coming back," she whispered. The Duke's pistol jerked sideways, aiming at her now. Bo moved before thought could catch him. Threw his shoulder into the stranger just as the trigger pulled. The shot roared, rang off timber, shattered glass. They tumbled to the floor, fists and blood and snarls. The Duke fought like a nobleman trained to kill with precision. Bo fought like a man who'd buried too many he couldn't protect. The pistol clattered to the floor. A second later, the cabin door burst wide open, wind howling through. And the Mustang stood there, steam rising from its flanks, eyes locked on the scene before it. Silent, watching. The Duke froze. Bo froze. Eliza's breath caught. The Duke slowly turned toward the Mustang, voice shaking now. "You shouldn't have come back." But the Mustang didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't blink, as if the beast had seen empires fall, as if it remembered a promise no man heard. And in the stunned silence, Eliza stepped forward and whispered, "You weren't the only one who brought him here." Then the wind slammed the door shut, and the candle blew out. The ropes cut into his wrists, not cruelly, but tight enough to make a point. Bo McCrae sat on a carved oak chair, wrists bound behind him, blood drying on his temple. The fire crackled in the stone hearth behind him, its heat steady, too steady. It wasn't the flicker of survival. It was the controlled warmth of a man used to leisure. The kind of man who brewed tea with storm winds outside. The kind of man who called danger by its proper title and poured wine while waiting for it to arrive. The cabin, now visible in full, was a contradiction. Rough on the outside, frontier-built, pine log bones, but inside, it was a museum of lost elegance. The walls were lined with hand-stitched maps of Europe, their borders decades old. Swords leaned in pairs beneath each map, their blades dulled from duels, not war. Leather-bound volumes crowded walnut shelves, most in French, some Latin. A violin rested near the window, untouched, but tuned. Opposite Bo stood the man who called himself Lorien de Chavannes. He held a brandy glass like it was an extension of his soul, swirling the amber liquid with fingers that hadn't known labor in years. His coat was deep velvet, cuffs lace-edged, and his silver hair was combed back with aristocratic defiance. His presence filled the room, not like thunder, but like a shadow that made you question where the light came from. "I am," the man finally said, his accent precise, clipped, not exaggerated, what your history books call a duke. "Lorien de Chavannes. Once of Lion. Now of nowhere." Bo blinked, blood still crusting one eye. What kind of duke lives in a pine box in Wyoming? The kind who prefers ghosts to gossip. Lorien stepped closer, gaze fixed on Bo's face. "I was 17 when the revolutionaries tore down my family's gates. I watched my brother's head roll from the guillotine. I made a vow that day, to disappear before they could name me." Bo shifted in the chair. "And now you're hiding behind books and girls." "Books," Lorien said smoothly. "Don't betray. As for girls, she is not mine. But she is under my protection." From the corner, Eliza moved quietly. She had a damp cloth in hand and approached slowly, like someone trained to tiptoe between monsters. Her hair was braided back now, face soft with concern. She crouched beside Bo, not speaking as she dabbed the blood from his temple. Her hands trembled. Not from cold. She's American, Beau muttered, not taking his eyes off Lorien. No French accent. No noble blood. Not all worthy things require noble birth, the Duke said. She was found. Saved. Eliza paused, then stood up sharply. Don't say it like I was drowning in a river. But you were, Lorien replied. Just not the kind with water. She turned away. Beau watched her retreat. Her back was too straight, her silence too loud. You got a lot of words, Duke, but none of them say what you're running from. Lorien's smile faded. Truth, Mr. McCrae. I run from the kind of truth that becomes a weapon in others' mouths. He circled behind Beau. Slow, deliberate. There are men across the ocean who still want me dead. There are letters I've burned and names I've buried. And there is gold, more than a man should own, that buys silence, ships, and girls left behind when death comes knocking. Beau's eyes narrowed. So you bought her? The Duke stopped. She was traded to cover her father's ruin. Like cattle. Like consequence. Eliza turned sharply. That's enough. Lorien didn't argue. Instead, he walked to the mantel and adjusted a clock ticking just out of sync. Then, with his back still turned, he said, I offer you a choice, Mr. McCrae. You leave here with your life. No harm, no shadow, no pursuit. Or what? The Duke turned, brandy in hand, face unreadable. Or you stay. And you won't leave at all. Beau laughed, a dry, bitter sound. That's the kind of offer a coward makes. Lorien's eyes flared. Just for a second. Men like me weren't made for exile, Mr. McCrae, but some things are worth vanishing for. He downed the brandy and set the glass aside. Beau shifted in the chair, muscles coiled. What if I say I ain't leaving? What if I say I'm staying right here, long enough to figure out what hell you've made for her? The Duke didn't answer. Instead, he walked to a desk, opened a drawer, and drew out a folded paper. He held it up. This, he said, is a list of names. Mine. Hers. Yours. All crossed by fate. You weren't led here by accident. That Mustang of mine, he's got more soul than a dozen men. He brought you here for a reason. Maybe to end me. Maybe to save her. I don't pretend to know. He set the paper on the table. But I know this, if you stay, the storm that's been chasing me since Paris will find you too. Eliza walked past them both, lit a lamp near the window, and pulled the curtain back. Outside, the trees were still. Snow fell softly, like ash. Inside, silence stretched long. Later that night, Beau lay on a cot, wrists no longer bound, ribs still aching. The Duke had retreated to his study, locking the door behind him. Eliza sat on the edge of a bench, wrapping her arms around her knees. You should have taken his deal, she whispered. I've never been good at doing what men like him want. She looked at him. Her eyes weren't scared anymore. Just tired. He thinks he saved me, she said. Thinks he gave me a life better than what was coming. And maybe for a while, he did. Beau waited. She lowered her head. But he didn't find me, Beau. Her voice cracked. He bought me. The storm came down in thick, wet fists, pounding the cabin roof with a rhythm that made sleep impossible. Wind howled through the trees like a woman in mourning, bending pine limbs till they cracked like gunfire. The snow slapped against the shutters in angry waves, as if trying to dig the cabin out from its roots and bury it in silence. Inside, the fire snapped but gave little warmth. The Duke lay near it, curled like a hound before the hearth, his coat draped over his shoulders, boots still on. One hand rested on the grip of his pistol, even in sleep. His breath was steady, soft, practiced. The kind of sleep men learn after years of expecting to be killed in it. Beau sat by the back wall, a blanket across his lap, ribs wrapped tight beneath his shirt. The pain was dull now, more ghost than wound. Eliza crouched beside the window, eyes watching the snow beat its fists against the glass. She broke the silence first. He used to talk to me about Rome, she whispered. Said exile was the noblest punishment. Said a man who survives it learns what he truly values. Beau didn't answer right away. He was watching the Duke too. Eliza turned toward him. But I think he says those things so he don't have to think about what he really is. Beau's voice was low. What is he? She shook her head. I don't know. A liar, maybe. A man who wants to be better than what he did. Or just someone playing hero in a story he made up to forget the truth? He nodded slowly. You always speak like that. Like what? Like you've already been through the end of your story and come back to warn the rest of us. She smiled faintly. Maybe I have. The wind screamed through the chimney and sent ash dancing up into the dark beams above. The Duke stirred, but didn't wake. Eliza drew closer to Bo, kneeling so her whisper wouldn't carry. I was from a ranch outside Dodge. Just me and my pa. We ran cattle, barely made it through 2 winters. Then came the men with papers, saying he owed money. He fought him. Wouldn't sign. Wouldn't kneel. Her breath hitched, but she didn't stop. I came home from fetching water and found him, face down. Shot twice in the back. Our barn was on fire. The cattle scattered. And there was a man I didn't know waiting at the fence line, saying he had come to take what was owed. Bo's fists curled beneath a blanket. They didn't beat me, she added. Didn't tie me. They said if I came quiet, I'd be fed, kept clean. That there was a buyer. Some foreign lord. Her eyes drifted toward the Duke. They sold me like land. Bo's voice cracked. How long? 2 years come next snow. She rose and walked to the table, running her fingers over a polished fencing blade that rested beside an old journal. He says he saved me, but I don't remember a skin to be saved. The fire popped, loud as a shot. The Duke didn't move. Bo reached under his shirt, pulling a thin silver chain from beneath the wrappings at his ribs. A small locket hung from it, dented, scratched, old. He opened it and held it out to her. She took it gently, and the moment her eyes landed on the tiny photograph inside, her hand began to tremble. That's my wife, Bo said. Annabelle. Eliza didn't speak. Couldn't. Her eyes stayed locked on the image. She died 7 years ago, Bo continued. Fever took her before we had children. Before we even finished building our house. She was strong. Kind. Laughed like she didn't know the world could be cruel. He exhaled. You look like her. Eliza slowly handed it back. That's why you keep staring at me. No, Bo said. I keep staring, 'cause I'm trying to figure out who you really are. And who you'll be if you get free. Her gaze dropped to the floorboards. You look at me like I'm someone you lost, but I've been lost longer than you know. Outside, the wind screamed again, high and sharp. They sat in silence, the fire the only thing holding back the dark. Somewhere far off, something moved in the woods, a crunch, a shift, maybe a branch snapping underhooves. Eliza leaned in. That sound, he's back. Bo stood slowly, gritting his teeth through the pain. The Mustang. She nodded. He always comes back when something's wrong. Bo reached for the door just as a heavy thud hit it from outside. Solid, slow, like a weight had been dropped against it. Then another. Then silence. Eliza pulled a lantern from a shelf and lit it with shaking hands. Bo unbarred the door and pushed it open slowly. Snow rushed in first, biting and wild. The lantern flame danced and bent. And then the Mustang stepped forward out of the storm. Its chest was heaving, black hide glistening with sweat and blood. Red streaks ran down its flanks, the snow beneath it painted dark. But it stood tall, proud still, eyes locked on Bo. Hanging from its neck was a saddlebag, leather, soaked in blood. Slashed, torn, but still holding something inside. Bo reached out, gently took it, and stepped back. The Mustang didn't follow. It turned and vanished into the trees, as silent as it had come. Eliza closed the door, barred it again. Bo knelt by the fire, opened the bag. Inside was a soaked, crumpled cloth, and a badge. A marshal's badge. Eliza stared. There was also a folded note, half destroyed by blood, with only one line still legible. He ain't no Duke. And I'm coming for what he stole.